by the right of the council, by the will of the Force. This is a bonus episode of Jedi Talk. This is Tom Okri, a third of the full High Council, and a third of the regular council. Here just to give you a quick intro of the episode that I did with our new buddies at Cigars and Space podcast. Really excited to be able to join them, but please join us or follow us on Instagram at Jedi Talk Podcast, youtube.com/Jedi Talk, and on TikTok at Jedi Talk. I talked a lot with our buddies at Cigars and Space. Those gentlemen over there had a really fun time. The time flew, and I can't wait to get a chance to sit down with them again. I think we should have them on Jedi Talk properly when Brad, Evan, and myself are all together. We'll be back in person in the beginning in November, but you'll still hear Brad on Skype until then. But had a fun time. Talked all about my favorite Disney Plus series, Ahsoka. Unfortunately, we didn't have enough time because I really wanted to tell them how decent of a woman Kyle's mother was, but they listen to the podcast. They understand. So hope you enjoy. Tom here from Jedi Talk. Got to join Cigars in Space.
All right, guys. So today we've got Tom with us from Jedi Talk. He's going to be guest hosting as we discuss the Ahsoka series and kind of wrapping that up. Tom, I'll throw it to you.
Hey there, guys. Thank you so much for having me on. I'm very excited. I always love talking about Ahsoka and to talk about myself and specifically the things that I do on Jedi Talk Podcast. So, yeah, and we love reaching out to the community and meeting other podcasts like yourself. So let me just talk about Jedi Talk real quick and where we came from. And I think we found each other just kind of on the internet, right? Just via Instagram. So I love that stuff. I love that about the community. Jedi Talk's been around for close to 7 years. I'm not the original host of it. That's Brad Hughes. And even Evan T. Boucher, who's also one of our 3 co-hosts. He's not an original host, but Brad started it way back in the day. He's been through a few hosts. He did a Disney Parks podcast specifically that Jedi Talk kind of just melded into. We all live in Central Florida. We're on Batu at Galaxy's Edge frequently. Spoiler alert, if you're checking out Jedi Talk for the first time, we're pretty rare. We actually like the Star Wars sequel trilogy. So that's how we're a little controversial. We have been on the Galactic Star Cruiser, which is now closed twice. Evan's been on 3 times, so we're really big in that community. So if you haven't been around the Halcyon or want to learn about it, come check Jedi Talk out. We're not your daddy's Star Wars podcast. We tote the cancellation line quite often. So we even have an episode that Disney said, "Hey, you guys can't release." So if you want it, just hit us up on our Instagram, and I'll send you the file.
Nice.
At Jedi Talk Podcast on Instagram. So.
That's awesome. Yeah, actually, I recently saw, I think, what was it? One of the most recent episodes you guys were actually doing the Galactic Star Cruiser. You were talking about it a little bit, I think.
Yeah, that's about all we've been talking about lately, especially since it's closed to almost a month ago. It was something, it was out of this world. It was groundbreaking. Sad to see it close. It sucks that Disney didn't make any money on it. So.
Yeah, no, I read so much about it, and we actually, Jason and both were like kind of already, I guess, pre-planning a trip to go and check it out. And then we kind of heard news that they were going to close it, so we were a little bit disappointed with that. But we'll have to do like another thing sometime where you guys can tell us all about it or whatever.
Absolutely, yeah, we can catch you up on Halcyon Talk. We love doing that. So cool. We love doing that. Awesome. But I love talking about Ahsoka. Tell me about so for listeners of Jedi Talk, because we're going to put this out on our channels too. Tell me about y'all's podcast.
Yeah, absolutely. So we started in June of last year. I had Jason and I both have been, huge Star Wars fans for as long as we can remember, and I've got lots of friends, and I just love talking about Star Wars. And I was like, all right, I got to think about some people who I could do a podcast with, and naturally, Jason here is also my father-in-law, so he, naturally, we kind of
that's awesome.
Off of Star Wars, and so we started out with the Kenobi series, and that's kind of where we kind of officially began. And we've hit all kinds of topics since then, from the different movies to the shows that have come out. We've pretty much followed all the series and things. So, but yeah, we're just going strong a little over a year now, and just trying to do more stuff like this, like collaborations, and just getting to know more people, because Star Wars is awesome, and I like to talk about They're cool people.
Hell yeah, Star Wars is awesome. And that's so cool. Keeping within the family. I actually haven't seen that dynamic too much with Star Wars podcasts lately. So hell yeah, I love it. So
Yeah.
podcasts in your infancy. So hell yeah.
Oh yeah, no, it's awesome. It's definitely been something I've loved ever since we started. So it's going pretty good. But I think with that said, let's we'll go ahead and jump into the kind of Ahsoka series.
Yes.
So just as a first question right off the bat, and you guys can hop in however you want to here. So I was thinking a little bit about this earlier in the week about predictions before the series began, and then of course getting to the end of the series. Were there any predictions that you made about the show or about any of the characters that either came true or were proven false? And were you happy or sad about it? Or, yeah.
Jason, I would let you go first. Your show here.
Well, I'm trying to think if we had, if we did a, I know we discussed things what we'd like to see and some of that stuff. I'm trying to think if we did any prediction. It actually all progressed exactly as I'd foreseen. Um,
Yeah, right.
Did you feel like it
no,
was? Did you feel like it was a little too predictable?
no,
Okay.
yes, no.
Okay.
Okay, let me break down the phrase there that you said. Okay, hold on, Tom. Garrett and I are both engineers, so
Okay.
we're going to like rationalize everything down to the gnat's butt here,
Okay.
right?
Okay.
Um, Too predictable? No, predictable was fine. I anticipated that they were going to basically do the first season, and we weren't going to get thrown back to the end, so to speak.
Hmm.
I didn't necessarily see that Sabine and Ahsoka were going to get stuck over in the other galaxy, that type of thing. But I guess timeline duration, it proceeded what I thought it would be.
Okay.
But one of the things that we both like to say is, I'm here for it. Whatever Star Wars wants to put out, I'll watch it. I might complain about the plot, but that's about the only thing I'll complain about. I'm never going to complain about new Star Wars, and we have been critical of the sequel trilogy.
Okay.
So,
I know.
but I'm only critical about the plot in the storyline and the disconnectivity, not necessarily the movies in and of themselves individually.
Sure. Sure.
But anyway, back to Ahsoka. So no, I was fine really with the way that it went. I don't have any complaints about it. Even listen to other podcasts if when they do like recap shows and stuff. Most of the things that they would complain about in a given episode, by the time they got to the end, was resolved. One of the big things I heard people talking about was how stoic Ahsoka was and all that stuff, and that was a whole part of the character arc for her to become
Yes.
Ahsoka the Grey to Ahsoka the White, to borrow from Lord of the Rings. But um, now back to Garrett's question. I don't know. I'm struggling here with something that we predicted that came to pass or didn't come to pass, and I don't know. I was happy with all of it. I'm here for good Star Wars storytelling, and I feel that did it. Um, but yeah, what do you think, Tom?
So let me just start this right off the bat. I made a hot take claim on Jedi Talk, and I'm going to do it here on this show. Ahsoka, in my opinion, is already better than The Mandalorian as far as like Star Wars TV goes. It's my number one. Now I need to tell you that my 3-2-1 as far as Star Wars characters go, 3 Ahsoka Tano, 2 Cal Kestis, 1 Anakin Skywalker. We got 66% of that, two-thirds of that in the series I just saw. So of course this is going to be my freaking favorite series, right?
Right.
But I think the ceiling is so high for Ahsoka. So your question is like things predicted, things I wanted. Jedi Talk does a lot of top 10 episodes, and we did a top 10 episode of like things we want from Ahsoka or like maybe guesses. And I've got my list up here so I can run through it real quick to see what I was right with anything. I know my number one was Anakin Force Ghost. We got that right. So
Right.
I mean I was. I wanted that so bad. I just met Hayden Christensen in March at MegaCon here in Orlando, so
Wow.
it was like it was so surreal for me to see my favorite Star Wars character back and just looking so great as ever too. I put Chopper War Crimes on here. I wanted to see more war crimes from our little buddy Chopper, our little droid Chopper. And I think he blew up that one ship, but I wanted more.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I think I was looking for a Kanan Jarrus flashback too, but we didn't necessarily get that. We got his picture on the dashboard of the
Well, we
ghost.
got a we got a shout out by
Yeah,
Wu Yang.
that's right. That's right. That was cool. That was such a cool scene
Yes,
when they're
it
building the
was.
lightsaber. Oh my god.
Yeah, that
Um,
was nuts.
one of the things that I really railed against going into this, and maybe this is a good topic to talk about how you guys felt about this, but I didn't want Sabine Wren to really be force sensitive. This is one of the things that I'm okay with it. Like it didn't bother me, but Sabine Wren's so badass on her own, and she's actually my favorite Mandalorian.
Hmm.
And like I get what Kanan said about her in Rebels makes me okay about this more, but it just is something about I don't think you needed to give her force sensitivity.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hmm. It's weird with, I think it was a meme today. I was scrolling through Instagram and I saw, and it was talking about this very thing. And I think they were comparing, different individuals' kind of forced journeys, and how long they kind of take to do, or get to that point. It's weird. I guess it's one of those things. Is the question like, can it's that old adage, anybody can sing? Is it kind of like that? That's kind of what I've been asking
Okay.
people. I'm like,
Okay.
what do you think about that? Do you think that the force can be tapped in by everybody, right? I mean, if you think, you go back to Return of the Jedi, or even Empire Strikes Back, when Yoda is talking to Luke and he's like, everything around you is the force, and he
Hmm.
starts talking about it in that range. So if in that mentality, I'm thinking, I, I guess maybe my answer to that would be, I don't know.
Hmm.
How do I feel about everybody being force sensitive? I don't think I like that concept.
Hmm.
I don't think that puts a specific group of people to a side, and allows those people to tap into it. But I mean, but then again, we do also get lots of people who are very like force sensitive, or who are like, kind of intuitive to the force. And so I think that, um, I don't necessarily think I mind Sabine having force abilities, but I could totally see like the side of it of being like, she's just such a good Mandalorian, she doesn't
Yeah.
need it. I
Right.
totally, I totally get that.
Right.
So,
But like
Well,
I'm here to see the story progress though. Like it's not
yes.
ruining it for me. So
sure, yeah,
Now,
no, I get
I kind of I think I agree with you, Tom, on that. I didn't need her to be force sensitive, but I'm okay with it. And kind of like Garrett said, she's not real force sensitive.
right.
As an example, my daughter, Garrett's wife, she sings beautifully. She did not get it from me. So the point being is that there's talent, and they brought that out in the middle of this episode, this series too, was that
That's true.
talent plays into it. Everybody is force sensitive, but uh, some are more force sensitive than others, so to speak. So I, as long as they don't make her anywhere remotely close to the level of Ezra or Ahsoka,
No. Yeah.
long as she's just a little force sensitive, and maybe she just continues to have problems mastering it and she never can lift a ship up, but she can get a lightsaber, then I can probably live with it. But
Right.
let's not make her some Sith Lord or Jedi Master or anything of that nature. So
I'm with you there.
yeah.
Yeah.
I think of, because like, what is the one Mandalorian Jedi who had the, came up with the dark saber. It's like, I'm okay with Mandalorians, being Jedi. I think it just depends on like, how do you present a Mandalorian who has force abilities, but is also very in tune to like their culture and where they come
Hmm.
from, because that's a big part of like Sabine's history, is being a Mandalorian. And it's like, is she more Mandalorian than she is Jedi? And I would say like, I think she's kind of becoming like a good, combination of both. But I think that, when people lay out her character, I think they like to think of her more along the lines of a Mandalorian. I know for me
Hmm.
personally, like, one, as far as like the predictions and things are concerned, um, in the beginning, I had this thought about Balin Skull. My whole thought was, okay, Balin Skull, he's my prediction before the series began was, my prediction was that Balin Skull was going to be kind of power hungry. He's going to want to chase greatness, and maybe he understands that Ahsoka is going to get him to Thrawn. I had this idea that maybe he would try to kill Thrawn and go through that. Obviously, we know he's not going to be successful because Thrawn makes it, and
Right.
later on. But I thought that maybe I'd see something like that. And so, it was like Balin was one of those, and even Shin as well. They were two of those characters that right up to the very end, I still was being surprised by their.
Hmm.
I couldn't tell you anything about their characters. I just did not know where they were going to go, and I would have liked to get a little bit more
Hmm.
with Balin. So
Balin's story is so good. It's a shame Ray Stevenson passed away.
Yes,
It
yes, it is.
truly is, and it's heartbreaking. But I have faith in the chosen one, Dave Filoni, to get it right and figure it out.
Yep.
Um, because now that we saw him on the statues of the Mortis gods, with the father and the brother and the missing daughter statue, although we saw the daughter in Morai flying near Ahsoka, although we could say Ahsoka is the daughter now, right?
I think that's the inference that Dave's trying to push.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. So I think we can officially start saying that. So it's I'm so ready for season 2 already, and I know it's going to be
Right.
forever until we get it. So
well, that
So
was
if you got to,
sorry. Go ahead, Jason. Go ahead.
no, no, you go ahead because I was going to ask what was next on his list.
Oh yeah, well we can see that. You want to, Tom? What was
oh,
next on your list?
sure. Let's see here. I don't want to run through everything. I kind of want to run through like the important ones. I closed it out. See, yeah, preparation, 8 out of 10. I said I wanted an Ashley Eckstein cameo out of the series, and we didn't get one. At least I didn't.
Yeah,
There wasn't an obvious one.
I,
I
I
don't.
I think it would have been good because Ashley's short. I thought that would have been good for them to have made her the young Ahsoka, but that was just my
Oh, I
personal,
know. I know.
or at least use her voice for the young Ahsoka. I think that would have been great.
I'm right there with you, Jason. I was hoping for a minute. I was like, I closed my eyes. I'm like, is that her? I'm like, no, yeah. But
Yeah,
it would have been nice to see her. Um,
Yeah.
yeah,
I wanted Merrick, that Inquisitor, to be someone. I had guessed everywhere from a fallen Night Brother to um, Barriss Offee to Ezra Bridger being controlled, but Merrick just ended up being Merrick. So
Yeah.
and I was okay with that because
me too.
I don't like the whole. It seems like every time there's a new character, everybody jumps to conclusions about who it is, and if it's always somebody, and they could have made that Night Brother to be or Merrick to be somebody that was obscure but known,
Right.
so it wouldn't have to be too tight. But it shrinks my galaxy too much, and I want them to broaden it a little bit.
I'm with you there.
Although they could have made it somebody besides, a Night Brother spirit, apparently, which is what it was.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. That's it. That was interesting.
yeah,
So then I also said like I wanted to get like a surprise Leia cameo, and we kind of got that through C-3PO.
yeah,
That was a cool way to do it. That was a cool way to do
it
it without
was.
having to
It
like
was.
That was awesome.
rely on AI or anything to do with like making Carrie Fisher's face on like a
Yeah,
younger actress. C-3PO was perfect. Such a great surprise. I didn't want to see the Mandalorian or Boba Fett, Fennec Shand in this show,
agreed.
and I'm happy we didn't. Um,
So let me redirect you for a half a second.
yeah, sure.
Um, speaking of the late Carrie Fisher, and yeah, what are your thoughts on recasting some of these characters, such as Princess Leia, either in this timeline or even in the post sequel trilogy timeline, just so we can continue? No, well, we really wouldn't need her there because she did pass away in that timeline. But
Right.
but I guess either a younger or the age that Carrie Fisher was in the sequel trilogy. What are your thoughts on that? You for it, against it? What do you think?
I'm I'm for it. I'm for it because they already dipped their toe into that with doing it with Han Solo, right? With Solo,
Yeah,
with Harrison Ford and Aaron Aldenreich. I always screw his name right. No. Did I
great
say that
pick.
right?
I don't know. Sounds right. Let's
Yeah.
go with it.
I always screw it up. I think he did a fine job as Han. It
Yeah,
was okay. I wanted a little bit more out of that movie, but overall, I'm fine with it. It's Star Wars, right? Um, you can do it for Luke. You can do it for Luke. You could do it for Leia. If it
great.
gives us, I mean, the stuff that they did with Luke and Book of Boba Fett was damn near perfect.
Yes.
It looked really good, and now that the technology's even better, I can't imagine what that's going to look like. But I'm completely fine with recasting. Those characters are those characters.
I agree, and I don't. We limit ourselves in storytelling in Star Wars simply because it started almost 50 years ago.
Yes.
If we're going to say, "Oh, only the character who played it originally can play it ever," because that's I mean, Yeah, because that's again, that's going to limit us. I mean, that would have limited the prequel trilogy significantly if they had said, "Oh no, Alex Guinness is dead. Oh, we need to, de-age Alex Guinness." I mean, obviously it wouldn't have worked because he wasn't there,
Right.
but that would just wouldn't have. You're just limiting your ability to tell stories.
Hmm.
Now, given that, I am perfectly okay with them moving to another timeline in the galaxy,
Yes.
going back. I like the acolyte. We're going to be 100 years prior to Phantom Menace.
Hmm.
Yeah, let's go somewhere where we don't know anybody. That way, you escape that entire concept
Hmm.
of recasting and stuff. You don't have anybody. By the way, it's Alden Ehrenreich. How
Alden
about that?
Ehrenreich. Okay. Thank you. Thank you for that.
I think I also think for me, like a lot of people complained about Obi-Wan being like nostalgia bait. And I've even heard some people complain a little bit about it with Ahsoka, and I'm like, wow, you guys are losers. Because my whole thing, I mean, call it nostalgia, whatever. I don't really care. I think it's one of those things where you've got these characters that were such a vital part of Star Wars. Let's just use them as long as we can. That's kind of my whole thing.
Thank
I
you.
don't necessarily like, I don't have a problem with them recasting Hayden Christensen or even bringing back, Natalie
Hold
Portman
on
if they
now.
do awesome.
Well, Hayden is one of those that, quite frankly, at this point, they don't need to recast. They still
No.
have him, and he's still relatively young looking.
Right.
Well, that's what I'm saying. He's
Right.
younger, and a lot of these actors are younger. And my whole thing is let's just keep using them. I mean, like I guess I'm sure there's a lot of people who probably disagree with me on that, but I am all for that. I don't think there's anything wrong with, Now there does come a point where you say okay, because like I'll be honest, I felt like when Obi-Wan ended, we got to the end and we get to see, of course, we have Ewan McGregor and then we have Liam Neeson.
Hmm.
And I thought when I finished that episode, I looked over at my wife Brittany and I said, I feel like I'm waving goodbye to my childhood right now. I felt that I was like, I feel like moving forward, there's not going to be a lot of this, prequel stuff anymore. And I was like, man, this is kind of sad. I hope
Yeah.
that doesn't quite go away. And of course, getting him back, Hayden back in Ahsoka was great and incredible.
And he said he's
So
open to more of it. So let's go.
I'm
Let's
all
go,
about
Hayden.
it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right, and again, I'll stand on my own little stance. As long as it's a good story, you can keep dishing the stories out to me. I don't care what they are. I'm okay with it. But you gotta blend it. You gotta blend it with the known before. You gotta blend it with the known after. You can't just tell me something that
Right.
causes some sort of discontinuity, because then you're gonna have the fans and pitchforks and torches and all that stuff, and they're
Yep.
gonna burn the series to the ground. So
Right.
Sure will.
yeah,
Well,
The only few things left on my list were just I wanted details on the orange blades from Balin and
I did.
Shin.
I did too.
Yeah.
And we didn't get that.
No, but that's all right. Up to our own devices, I guess. And then finally, I just selfishly wanted to see a little Ewan McGregor and Hayden Christensen together in like a flashback, but we got some bomb ass Clone Wars flashbacks, so
No, absolutely.
I'm happy with that. Yeah.
yes, we absolutely
Although it
did.
would have been cool to have Ewan standing over in the corner.
Yes. Yeah. It
You don't
just
have to say anything.
No.
Just being there in his Clone Wars armor would have been
yes.
pretty awesome.
Seeing live action Anakin in the Clone Wars armor was insane.
Oh, absolutely.
Mind blew when I saw that.
Yeah. So we do have that in common, is that Anakin / Vader is probably my number one character. Ahsoka, I've really not given much thought to secondary, but Ahsoka may be number two.
Hell yeah.
Um, so probably is, if I were to sit there and break it down. Qui-Gon is probably my favorite Jedi character overall.
Okay.
I don't know why, but I just love Qui-Gon. So
He's like the
uh,
ultimate, like he's almost a perfect Jedi.
yeah,
He's not corrupt like the Council. He understands what being a true Jedi is. So yeah,
yes.
yeah. That's why, like, I totally understand when people call him their favorite.
Yeah, no, Qui-Gon's great. Plus, I mean, Liam Neeson. Who doesn't like
Well,
Liam
yeah.
Neeson?
I mean, come on.
I've loved every movie he's been in. So
He does have a particular set of skills.
I'm a
that's right.
I'm a big DC guy, and he played a great Ra's al Ghul in Batman Begins.
Oh,
Yes,
so
yes, he did. Yes,
yeah.
he did.
Right. Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. Yeah. Well, I've got two more questions here, Tom. Actually, this one was one that you mentioned a minute ago. It was where does the Ahsoka series kind of fit in your rankings of the shows now?
Oh yeah.
I think you touched on this a little while ago.
Here, I will rank them for you. So, let me know if I'm leaving one out. But I would rank my shows because there 5 Disney Plus shows have been out thus far, right?
So Mandalorian,
Mhm.
Boba Fett, Ahsoka, Obi-Wan.
and Andor.
Andor, yes. Okay.
Okay, so that was
Yeah,
5.
right.
So I would rank my shows right now with the current season. That's 3 Mandalorian seasons and 1 season of everything else. Number 5, Book of Boba Fett. 4,
Agree.
4 Kenobi. 3 and 2 and 3 are close for me because I love Andor. But 3 is Andor for me. 2 Mandalorian, 1 Ahsoka.
Hmm, I
So
see.
that's my
Can I
rankings.
ask a quick question? There are a lot of people that like Andor over Obi-Wan. What is it specifically for you, Tom, about Andor that you like more, or just drew you to that series more?
Yeah, and great question. And I'm me liking Andor more than Kenobi doesn't mean I like hate Kenobi or anything. I just prefer Andor a little
Sure,
bit more because we got a lot
sure.
of great Anakin in it, and we got Ewan McGregor as Obi-Wan. But Andor touches a part of Star Wars that we hadn't really seen before. It's gritty, it's dark. It's like if Zack Snyder were to have made a Star Wars like TV series. It's like it was real. It felt real. Like you could connect with almost like real world consequences. Like especially with one of my favorite new characters, Nemec. That his like manifesto at the end when he was talking about, or he was reading that over like what was happening in the episode just gives me chills every time I watch that. There's just it's I like when things I like try something different and exceed. And for me, I like the darker stuff, right? Batman's my favorite superhero, my favorite comic book hero. I like the darker shit. Sorry if I'm not supposed to swear on your podcast. Whoops. I
All
like
good.
the
We'll edit.
yeah. I like the darker stuff. So it just I just personally lean towards Andor because of that, and it's such a great spy thriller. Like I always felt tense watching that, but I understand why people find it like people have called it boring. Like Brad and Evan, the opposites on Jedi Talk for me. They don't like Andor, so we're always
Mhm.
fisticuffs over it. So, and
Yeah.
I'll say one thing about Kenobi, why I put it lower than Andor for me, is because they really cheaped out. Because Episode 4, I love Jedi Fallen Order, Jedi Survivor. I'm a big Cal Kestis guy. I love the video games. Episode 4, when they broke into Fortress Inquisitorius, it's like the end of Fallen Order video game. That's what
Right.
Cal does. Like
Yes.
and Cal did it better. And it's like it Kenobi to me sometimes it's just a little lazy writing. I like it, but Andor is
Yeah.
Andor is better than that.
Yeah. I don't disagree.
Yeah.
Obi-Wan did have a little bit of it was a little more simplistic.
Yeah,
They relied
absolutely.
basically on the presence of Ewan and Peyton and their roles
Right.
to carry it, and as opposed to doing a more robust storyline. Andor basically taking one little known character in Cassian himself
Right.
and making an entire series around that. And yeah, you did have Mon Mothma. I guess it was the only other known character going into it. But it's not like your average Star Wars fan is going to go, "Oh, Mon Mothma's in. I want to go see this."
Right.
You
It's
had to
true.
do something with it.
Excuse me,
You had
I'm
to.
the biggest Mon Mothma fan here. I'm really offended by that.
Well, okay, you'll get over it. But but the point being is that either of those characters are both not. They're not. You don't see people really going to the. I'm drawing a blank on what the Star Wars venue, the I don't know, the convention, Star Wars convention. Drawing a blank.
Celebration.
Yeah, celebration. You don't see a lot of people cosplaying as Mon Mothma. So that's my point I'm making.
I get it.
Um, so you had to make you had to have something to draw people in, and I think they did it with what I consider to be some of the best plot writing of any of the Star Wars series to date.
Right.
Possibly probably some of the best writing of any of the Disney stuff at all, including the sequel trilogy, in my opinion. It's so robust and so deep, and you're right, it is a spy thriller.
Mm-hmm.
And outside of Star Wars, that's really my favorite genre is that type of thing. I like little action adventure thrillers. The Reacher series on Amazon, the
Yeah.
Jack Ryan series, all that type of stuff. That's kind of my shtick. So it's in that I don't know, kind of that vein of the spies,
Right.
and I just love it. So I agree. And when I'm ranking them, I have a hard time though because I almost view Andor and the Obi-Wan series as two completely separate things. It's hard to say that this one's better than that one because
Mm.
they're just like they're not even
It's
comparable.
it's true. It's
And then I
true.
find Boba Fett, Ahsoka, and Mandalorian, they're all comparable because it's really all the same universe there. The other ones are back here in, 15, 20 years ago. These are all in the same universe. I can
That's fair.
compare those.
That's fair.
Yeah.
So I don't
Okay.
know. I have a hard time with that when I do rank it because it's kind of like you. You say, oh, I got to 2 and 3. They're kind of interchangeable.
Right.
Blah blah blah. Yeah, it's that with me all the time because I don't know. They're just different.
Sure.
They're just different.
Sure. It makes
think it
sense.
also I think it also comes down to like when you sit down outside of like your normal whatever you normally watch or whatever on TV and you think, okay, I'm actually going to sit down and I'm going to watch Star Wars. Like I'm going to find something, whether it be the movies or the shows, I want to find something. And, for me, it does, there is like a level of like rewatchability for me too, that I tend to like gravitate more. And I think that like for me, whenever I rank them, I tend to rank them off of what is going to draw me in to a certain point of it. And you know what? I find myself a lot of times not starting from scratch like I would other shows, like picking up after episode 3 or 4, or, especially like with the Boba Fett series,
Right.
getting to like the last like 2 or 3 episodes before I'll start watching there and that sort of thing. So, I think it definitely just comes down to all the interest and kind of what you think. But I have agreed about Andor 2 being one of those shows that just it seems like it was just so beautifully written, and it flowed so well, and it just followed this storyline that really just kind of left you on the edge of your seat.
Yeah.
You felt the urgency of the Empire kind of tracking him down. You felt
Yes.
the urgency of the this rebellion starting to form in
Mhm.
Mon Mothma. And so it had that vibe where you just were constantly looking forward to the next episode. So
1000%
um,
right.
but I think if I was to lay out my rankings for the show, for the shows, I think, let's see, I think I'd have to say, oh man, it's tough. It's really tough, but I think I'd have to say Ahsoka. Then it would be Obi-Wan. Then it would be Mandalorian, Andor, and then Boba Fett. I think
Okay.
that's
Yeah.
my ranking.
In
So
every ranking's the correct ranking. Everyone's preferences are different.
right.
It's a way to go, man.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I would have to. I would have to still keep Mandalorian at number one,
Yeah. Yeah.
and it has
Totally.
more to do with quantity than quality at this point.
Okay. That's
Sure.
fair. That's fair. Yeah.
There's a lot of good storyline in there. And
Yeah.
speaking of Celebration, Tom, have you ever been to Celebration? Jason and I have never been.
I have not. Brad has. He hosted a panel at 22 in Anaheim. It was the beauty of Batu and Galaxy's Edge, and talked about the Halcyon just a little bit. We just gotten off. We are going to Celebration in Japan, though. Jedi Talk is going to Celebration in Japan. I'm going to check out Disneyland, Tokyo Disneyland while we're out there, and hopefully we get Jedi Talk's trying to get media for it, so hopefully we can snag that. So
Are there any talks of it making its way back to, because like I know they did Chicago a couple years ago,
Yeah.
and because my whole thing was I know they had it in Los Angeles, and so we were like, or not Los Angeles, was it LA? I think it was LA.
Anaheim
like
was 2022.
Anaheim,
Yeah.
that's right. So
Practically
my whole
LA.
thing is, yeah. But yeah, I've been wondering if they're gonna like bring it back to Chicago or anything anytime soon, or if that's in the works or anything.
They
like
will.
that.
They will. It's just I was hoping for 2025 to be stateside. It'd be an easier and much cheaper trip, but hey, I've always wanted to go to Japan, so here we go.
Yeah, no, that's gonna be incredible. So
Mhm.
all three of you are going though?
That's the plan. Yeah.
That's so cool, man. That's gonna be awesome. Yeah, we love watching. I even tuned in like when they did it this past time. I even tuned into some of the live
Oh yeah.
stuff that they were doing and
In
stuff
London,
too. So
yeah. Good stuff.
yeah. Well, all right. So I've just got one more question
All
here
right.
for us, guys, to kind of, I guess, bring us on home here. So I think I already know, Tom, what you're going to say because you said this earlier. But the question is, do we have enough material for a season 2? And do we or do we not feel like we need a season 2
Ahsoka?
of Ahsoka? Yes.
Oh yeah, I'll just jump off what I said earlier. Abso-freaking-lutely, we have enough for a season 2. I mean, just let alone on what you left me with Balin's skull, looking at what the
Oh yeah.
father was pointing at out there on Peridia. Like, what's that all about? Like, oh god,
Yes.
like that right there. Um, Thrawn's back in the galaxy. They're on Dathomir. They're building a stronghold in Dathomir. Like, there's so much going on. Like, what were in the caskets that they were loading onto the Thrawn ship, and I want to know what Thrawn has in mind. Where's Luke during all of this?
Right.
Why doesn't Luke know about this? So, God, I'm waiting patiently for season 2.
Yeah.
So with that, do you think they'll have Luke? You think we'll see Luke in season 2?
That was one of my predictions when we did a top 10 episode post Ahsoka. I said we need to know what Luke's doing right now. I need to know why he's not involved.
Right.
Like,
I don't disagree with that. I think
eh,
we do need to know why he's not there. I don't know that we necessarily have to have him, although I think it'd be fantastic if he was to come in for the grand finale, which may be the movie that Filoni's supposed to do. It may not
oh
even be
yeah.
the series. So.
Well, right in canon, I don't know if it depends on how far we'll go for Ahsoka season 2, and how old Ben Solo is. So he might be busy with Ben right now, or
Yeah.
because in the comics, in the Rise of Kylo Ren comics, he's fought the Knights of Ren with Ben. So maybe Thrawn's got something going on with the Knights of Ren that we'll see in Ahsoka
You
season
know
2.
what the timeline of that was? You know how old Ben was? That tell us where it was.
In Ahsoka season 1,
No,
oh,
no, in the
Rise of
comic book
Kylo Ren,
original.
I think he was like a
Yeah.
teenager, maybe like 15, 16, something like that.
So that would be after this because at this point he's
Yeah,
only maybe 5 or 6,
right.
7.
So that's what I'm thinking. If we time jump a little bit for Ahsoka season
Yeah,
2,
yeah.
which
Oh,
we
I
might,
got you. I got you.
yeah, we might, because I
Um,
don't think Thrawn's ready to strike. I think he needs some years to build up.
yeah,
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah. I think, right. I think because like the very first, like the last day after that episode that came out, the next day, one of the articles I read was basically was saying, we may not get a season two. The season two that we want might actually just be the movie. And I'm
Yeah,
kind of with you, Tom,
yeah,
Jason. I feel like there's just so much like out
Yeah,
there that would make for just a killer season two. I mean, I'm thinking like, dude, let's go long run here. Like give me a season two, maybe even if there's enough, like a season three before we get to
yes,
before we kind of have this over thing of like a movie. I'm like, there's so much material there, and
right.
and not to mention the fact, I mean, you could probably even do like a small spin-off on, what is the purpose of Dathomir? What are they doing there? Are the Night Sisters, are they resurrecting dead Night Sisters, or what are they doing there? I feel like that's like a whole other,
Yep,
direction that you could even go down. So yeah, I really do think that there's enough for season two. And I think that I mean, I don't know. I guess I'm trying to put myself in the mindset of like, what would it look like just to do a movie and not to do a season two? And I don't know,
I
I just have
can't
a
see it.
difficult time
Yeah,
believing that. Yeah.
no,
no, I think they have to have season 2
yeah.
before we get there. You talk about spinoffs, Garrett. I would be here with proper recasting now. I'd be here for Balin,
Oh,
a Star Wars story.
yeah.
Oh
Oh
yeah.
no, we Jedi Talk said we want a Tales of the Jedi episode for Balin's Skull.
Well, that would be yes,
Yeah.
yes, that would be. I've heard uh, conversation about that too on social media. That would be fantastic. I need to know more about Balin.
Yep.
He is probably the most fascinating new character, maybe the most fascinating character at all in that entire series.
100% agreed. Balin's Skull, 2024. Let's go.
Yes,
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. And like I feel I don't know, it's well, and not to mention the fact too, it's like a big part of me kind of wanted to see Shin kind of move in and come, be a part of the
Yes.
gang and all of that. And I wanted to see that. There was a good part of me that was like,
no, I want her to stay bad.
well, that's
She's
your prerogative. I think she
bad.
would. I
She's
think,
kind of in the middle.
yeah, she's in the
Uh,
middle. Like, what is bad though? You know what I mean? Like what
Well,
is bad?
I want her lightsaber to stay orange. How's that?
yes, there we go.
That's fun. But yeah, so there's quite a bit out there. I think that we could do with the season two. So
Yeah.
for sure. But well, I think that's all the questions I had. Tom, if you've got anything else to add on this Ahsoka, I tell you what, let's do this to wrap it up. Let's give our just kind of like letter grade of the whole series, kind of where like a letter grade on what we thought overall and why. I'll go first real quick. I think for Ahsoka, I give it just a solid A. I think it was really well done. There were, some directions that, some predictions and things I made, some questions I had that, I don't feel were necessarily wrapped up in the season like I wanted them to be. But then again, I guess the argument is, was that meant to go that way? It's like, well, maybe it was never meant for these things to be wrapped up and put a perfect bow on everything, right? Dave Filoni has a way, especially going back to Rebels, of kind of leaving things kind of for a while and letting things grow. So, but overall, just a great series, wonderful, wonderful execution of everything. I just give it a solid A.
Okay. I would say, and I adore this series, but agree with everything you said. I would A minus for me, and just because nothing is perfect, right? And there's always room to fill something. Sometimes Ahsoka, and I'm okay with this because I like this kind of stuff, but it was some slowish in some parts where it's like, all right, we're looking at the Purgle for 20 minutes here, and there were a lot of things built up tension wise that now we got to wait for season 2, which is fine. It's what gets you to tune in, but very, very nitpicky, very few things that could have been, made this an A plus for me, but a solid A minus. But I love Ahsoka, my favorite Disney Plus show that Star Wars has released.
Yeah, I'll go with that. I'm in the same range, A minus. For much the same reason. I don't really have too much to add there. It was slow moving at times, but I tried to picture it if they were to make this a movie.
Right.
And it obviously moves much slower than your standard 2 to 2.5 hour movie. You're looking at more of a 4.5 hour movie if you were to string it together approximately.
Right.
So yeah, they could have expedited a few things, but you had the time to tell it. But I think they probably could have squeezed a little more story into 8 episodes.
Sure.
So
That's fair. I get it.
yeah. So, but I'm with you. Is that I'm not an A plus giver unless they blow my socks off.
Right.
So yeah, A minus is probably where my grade would be as well.
Okay.
All right. Well, Tom, thanks so much for meeting with us and discussing Star Wars and our love for it all. So
anytime. Thank you, Garrett and Jason, for having me on. I'm so happy.
Yeah,
I love talking Ahsoka and Star Wars anytime, any day.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
Sure. We'll be hitting you up, I'm sure, at some point to talk more about the Halicon and how do you say it? Is it because I've had people say it both ways? Is it how you've been saying it differently?
It is the Halcyon.
Halcyon.
Yes.
That's right. Okay.
Yes.
There we go. Nice. All right. Well, Tom, appreciate it.
Thanks,
we'll
guys.
be in touch.
All right. Take it easy.
Thanks, Tom.
Thanks for having me on. Bye.